Are you ready to unleash your full potential and become unstoppable in your success and leadership?
Welcome to the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast, where we provide powerful insights and strategies for coaches, corporate leaders, and entrepreneurs. I'm Alexanne Carter.
And I'm Carol Register, and we're certified master neurocoaches who are passionate about helping you overcome your limiting beliefs and optimize your performance.
Each week, we'll be sharing actionable tips and strategies using neuroscience, from interviews with industry experts to solo episodes, to help you lead a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms.
Join our community of like-minded individuals. Hit subscribe now, and let's be unleashed and unstoppable together.
Hey, ambitious leader. Welcome back to another episode of the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast. I am so excited to introduce you today to our guest, Amy Yamada. Amy has been on my list of guests to have on the show for quite some time now, especially since she's dove into, I don't know if that's proper English, but has dove into using AI, using technology to amplify your voice. And I sort of see her as this, okay, sorry, what's the word that's coming to me? Like someone who's like took a risk, right? To really explore technology. And I know, like, with my background in educational technology, like I used to walk into a room, be 100 people in there, and I'd be the only woman, and there might be another woman in the room, but it was usually me, like surrounded by 100 other guys in the room. And so technology can sometimes be intimidating. And not only has Amy really just been a champion in really looking at how to use this technology and AI in her world, but I also see her as the queen of authenticity. When I first got to know Amy, she was just someone that just really modeled what it took and who you got to be a really true, authentic leader. And you guys have heard me talk before about the irresistible bold leader. It's something I'm very passionate about. And when I look at being, authentic and being connected to vision and really being leading from love and being daring. So that's kind of how I define bold, Amy. Amy, I think of you because you really do have the combination of all of those skills that it takes to be an irresistible bold leader and being that risk taker and leading from love. Like that's what I see from you. You're so authentic and genuine. And it's, I remember it was about a year ago when you first started your workshops. I was either about to deliver Amelia or I had just delivered Amelia, and just jumping on and seeing your passion, you didn't have any fear. Like that's what I noticed. And a lot of times when it comes to technology, especially new technology, there's sometimes fear out there. So I'm so honored to have you here and really for us to dive in and kind of geek out a little bit because, like I said before, not a lot of women are in this space. And so it's so excited to be able to connect with someone who is as passionate about technology and is, not afraid to try and experiment and create impact with what you're doing. So welcome.
Yeah, Alex, thank you so much for the warm welcome. And I'm so pumped to dive into our conversation today. And it's interesting when you were sharing about being in a room full of men when it comes to technology. I can so relate, in terms of once I dove into AI a little over a year and a half ago when ChatGPT came out, and I started really experimenting with it and started to share what I was learning about it even early on. And so I started getting invited to these kind of virtual rooms and then in-person experiences. And oftentimes I was the only woman as well. And so it was interesting to notice that, especially since for the longest time, having had a business coaching business for over 12 years now. And now we have an AI software product and we're in the AI world. So it's evolved for sure. But predominantly my audience has been women. And so to be in these rooms with all these men, I love men. It's great. I grew up with two older brothers, but it's just been an interesting experience to see, like, where are all the women in the house, and so it's fun to have these conversations, especially with women who are like curious about it, have some fears around it. I totally understand. I certainly have had my fears too, but AI is here now and it's only getting faster and evolving every single minute of every single day. And I don't say that to be in fear, but to instead see if we're open to embracing it and seeing how we can leverage it and optimize it. I've really come to love AI. And there's things that I'm still scared of, but I don't shy away from them. So I'm excited to have this conversation today.
So for the audience, because I know sometimes we're in technology, like we know about technology and then we are able to embrace it. And I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine a few weeks ago. And when I started talking about AI and ChatGPT, she hadn't even heard of it. So would you take a second just to even share a little bit with the audience of like, okay, when we're talking about AI, what this looks like, some of the AI tools that you use before we kind of unpack further what that looks like?
Yeah, I love that you're asking this question, especially because even just going back to what you said, technology, like what is technology? What is AI? I mean, both of these words can cover so many things. So I think part of the fear can be overwhelm or just not knowing and feeling like, I mean, I'll just admit, like when I was even initially starting an online coaching business and people were using words that I didn't understand, I was like, oh my gosh, I do I belong here? Do I not belong here? Right. And it's just like anything, it's like you just learn and it doesn't have to be so fearful. So, but to answer your question on AI, I really predominantly use ChatGPT and Claude.ai. And I know you said it just landed, opened up in Canada. I know Claude was in beta for a long time. But most people have at least heard of ChatGPT. And whether you're listening right now and you haven't heard about it, or you've heard about it, but you haven't tried it out, or you're like deep into it, just know that ChatGPT, it's this language learning model where you can literally go into ChatGPT, that's by OpenAI. Think of it as if you were able to have a conversation with artificial intelligence. So sometimes people say like, oh, it's like Google because you have a little blank where you fill something in and it finds information for you. I'm like, it's not Google. Google is a search engine, and AI and ChatGPT are where you can literally interact with artificial intelligence and it can pull from all this information that's out there in the world. So I just recommend anyone who hasn't even checked it out, go ahead and just go into ChatGPT, get a free account, and just ask it anything that you're interested in. You could say, hey, I've got these different ingredients in my kitchen. What are some ideas of recipes that I could create? They'll say, oh, interesting. Here's some recipes and here's how you can make it, so you can literally have a conversation with it. It's a language model.
It's fun, right? I feel like once you get started, I remember showing my mother-in-law last summer and she was like, oh my goodness, this is so cool. Like just taking even a piece of writing or something a speech she was going to deliver. And she put it in and it tweaked it, provided some other suggestions of how it can be improved, and she was loving it. And it is fun. I mean, we use it to do recipes. I'm trying to think the most recent thing I used it for. Oh yeah, coming up with my switching schedules for my 1-year-old, like all of the things, like you said, Amy, it is like having a conversation. I remember something actually at one of your workshops last year. And you named ChatGPT something else, which then motivated me to also give it a name. Chachi, yeah. So we name it Chappy. And I feel like once it has a name, it becomes more conversational versus like this ChatGPT, which sounds a bit more robotic. Whereas like once you have a name, my husband and I are always, Chappy and I were hanging out today and we're like having conversation. So being able to personalize that a little bit more. So I'm always really curious about the starting piece of the journey, or the curiosity piece of exploring AI, and then of course taking what you do with the authentic messaging, and then how your relationship sort of developed with Claude and Chachi, and also some of the things you've put together over the year. Well, I would say years. It's not even years. It's like just over a year, right? For your audience, and just where you've gone now with it, and now what you're up to in terms of partnerships and things like that. So
for sure. Thank you. So early on, I remember I was sitting down with my partner Ken, and it was funny because he was like, "You got to check out this ChatGPT thing," and I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'll get to that." Like I'm in my business mode. I've got plenty on my plate, right? I'm like, I don't have time for this right now. I've got other priorities, and I started to hear it just a little bit around me, just people saying, "Oh, ChatGPT," and it reminded me of when Clubhouse was new and all the rage. So the way my brain worked was like, oh, this is just another one of those platforms that people are temporarily, except nothing against Clubhouse, by the way, for those who still use it. But there was like an excitement or buzz around it. So I thought, okay, I'll get to this later. And then he grabbed his laptop. He's like, watch this. And he typed in something around like, write an email about this and this and this. And then just like, boom, this email was written for me. And as an entrepreneur, having a very little input and to get an entire email written, my mind was immediately blown. And for anyone who's had this moment, And even if you haven't had this moment, like it's a really great moment to go, holy crap, like I can't believe it just did that. And so that was my introduction to it. And I just thought, what is this? Like, tell me more. And so then I just dove into it. And I started thinking about how, while I was really impressed by the efficiency and productivity of it, I was not impressed by the authenticity of it. Like I was like, okay, how can I get it to write as if it were me? Just like if I were to hire a copywriter, I'd want them to write as if they were me. So I started to really experiment with it. My team and I experimented with it. And we brought in some of our frameworks and our methodologies in the messaging world to see how can we bring this in to train ChatGPT on my authentic voice. So initially it was just to use it for my own business. But as we started to stay up until 2 and 3 a.m. geeking out and testing, just being total nerds about it, we cracked the code and we learned some things. And then we started sharing with our clients. And then we started doing a program we ran all throughout last year. It was initially called ChatGPT for Coaches. And then it evolved to being authentic marketing with AI because we were attracting people beyond the coaching industry, agency owners, copywriters, any business owner that was focused on building a relationship, like a relationship-based business, meaning service-based business. And so we had a few hundred clients that went through that shorter program all throughout last year. We ran 10 groups last year.
Wow.
And it just, what I loved so much about it was that it was our chance to just dive into the deep end. We didn't know what we were doing. We were figuring it out, but we were deep in it from the beginning. And so we were just a little bit ahead of people who were hungry for it. And so that just kept us in that world and it accelerated our learning on it. And then we ended up developing our own AI-based software. So I'll get into that in a little bit, but that's just kind of how I got started. And then the program that we launched, and it just was really focused on how to train AI. Specifically, we were using ChatGPT, and then we started using Claude as well. On how to train it on your authentic voice and your writing style so that if you're using it for any form of communication, then this is how you do it. And we brought in our own, frameworks and methodologies, and it was really exciting.
Yeah, I still remember like the heart speech model that you modeled and getting to experience that and work with that. So I'm not sure if you'll have some links or anything to drop later so the listener can go check out that. But it was, that's the thing. It's great. Like technology can be fantastic and it can be a little bit robotic. And so the way that you sort of hacked, and I think that's what's so cool about it, is that when you really start to get technology, you really start to understand how it can work for you. And the beautiful thing, because it is AI, artificial intelligence, you can train it, which is what is so cool with your heart speech model. And then some of the other prompts that you have worked with to be able to, as you were saying earlier, like it literally is like another member of your team because you can train it and educate it for it to sound like you, start to get to know you, what you offer, your services. And it's fun. Like I have in my own ChatGPT account, like, my little, I guess, folders of things that I've worked on. And it's so nice. Okay, I'm working on this today. I just go to that one chat and it's connected. It starts to understand who I'm talking to and what I'm doing in that moment. And so it's so neat in that space, and also just in your own life, how you can use it to really, like, you can build a recipe like that. I love the fact that you're like, this is what I've got in my pantry. What can you support me with in here? And just being able to have fun and conversations, it supported me even with some of my marketing. I teach business technology here, and supported with sometimes, email communication so that you're more connecting, and it's fun how you really can train it, which is what's so cool. So you've put some of these coaching programs together. I mean, you've really dove in, like building out your own platform. Where is it involved now? And I know like you're working in partnerships, and I mean, you've also got your ideal client handbook. And so, yeah, share a little bit more there. And what's coming to me is the vision. Like, I'm really curious, I guess, sorry, I want to take a step back a little bit in terms of like your vision for this, like when you started working with this, and I guess a little bit how it's evolved and now where you are. Is this something that you foreseen about a year ago, or just
not at all? If we had this conversation even a year ago, even when ChatGPT came out, if you were to say, okay, I'm looking at a crystal ball, Amy, and by early next year, you will have your own AI software product that you will be licensing to other businesses, I'd say, wrong person. That's not even like, no, I have a coaching business and this is what I'm up to. And I am teaching some things on AI. And so I would have laughed, and I still laugh because it still seems funny to me. But Yeah, here's what's really cool is that I really have continued to follow my heart
Mm.
and be open to it's like life, right? There's things that you know right now, and then there's things that you know in the future. Like there's things that I didn't know back then. There's things that I don't know in the future. So just allowing yourself to really be unattached, right? That's
Mm.
how I really do my best to show up in the world. It's like I know there's things that I definitely want, and I have my vision, and my vision evolves. And then I also allow myself to listen and tune into the world around me, because there might be opportunities that I would have never even thought of. And that's exactly what has happened. I mean, especially with just diving into AI early on, it opened up so many doors. I can't tell you, my phone has blown up more than ever in the last year and a half than before, because we're like, oh, you're in AI, and you've got this specific perspective on bringing humanity into AI, which is different than the development side or all of the the automation side. So all that to say, we decided to create this, what you mentioned, the Ideal Client Handbook, because initially it was all about how we could train it on like our authentic voice, right? Like the person who's sending communication out. But communication has two sides. It's the sender and the receiver. And the receiver for an entrepreneur is your ideal client. So we thought, okay, if you really want to leverage this in your business and you're using it, in part for communication with your ideal client, we need to make sure that we're speaking the ideal client's language. And that brings out my messaging geekiness, right?
Yeah.
So we initially started playing with prompts around it. And then we started to play on the back end, saying, how can we create a really integrated system on the back end so that on the front end, all you need to do is answer two questions and fill in the blank. And the two questions are, what is your purpose? Like, why do you do what you do? And then what is your desired transformation or outcome for your ideal client? And then what is your business type? So when you answer these three questions in our system, and then you press submit, it goes into a production queue, it goes through our complex AI-based process, and each answer builds upon the last answer, and it's all in the intelligence world. And then within 10 to 15 minutes, it emails you the most in-depth analysis on who your ideal client is from a marketing psychology standpoint. So for anyone who's ever struggled with messaging, being really clear on who you are meant to serve, like the people who are seeking what you have to offer, and it meets you with where you are in terms of your skill sets and all that. Like it's the most in-depth tool, ends up being between 28 and 30 pages, which can be overwhelming. And it also solves that problem of understanding their fears and frustrations, and not just that, but how they would say it in their own words. So what we've discovered with this is when we have this level of insight into our ideal client and we're leveraging AI, we can then use this handbook and upload it into ChatGPT or Claude to train it on our ideal client. So now not only are we training it on our voice, but we're training it on the receiver's voice and who they are, so that the communication is like totally elevated from marketing to any form of communication with your audience. So that's now what we're focusing on is leveraging the insights and making an impact by helping more entrepreneurs to be able to understand their ideal client and have this as an AI marketing psychology tool.
Ours actually just came through. Was it yesterday? Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? We ran ours through. So for our digital web agency, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is literally like one of our most recent clients that we were speaking to.
Right.
Like all the things that they're coming up. I was looking at some of the goals and some of the things that came out of the discovery call, and it was like, matched, almost word for word. It's unbelievable. And so it's like you said, like it's really complex, but you're looking at what their pain points are, what they're thinking when they wake up in the morning, when they're going to bed, and like really being able to, it's going deeper, right? Like not just the surface level, it's really going into what are some of the things that the client's not saying. And that's what I noticed here, right? It was like, as it went through the document, as it went deeper and deeper, that's what I noticed. And it was like, it's like I said in that discoveries call, when you go deeper with the client, right? Especially for us with the web agency, that's what I noticed. It was really the things that weren't being said and really being able to get into the mind of the person that you're serving. And so it's a beautiful document. And I feel like it's got some really good food for thought too, because it's bringing up things that, like, maybe, as you said, Amy, like you're not even really thinking of, right? When you were speaking to your ideal client, speaking to things that you may have not have thought of, because it's so easy just to have like that surface level conversation. And being able to really create that and train AI to not just be your voice with that heart speech model, but also to be able to see how the person's receiving it. In leadership, we talk about listening to the listening. And I found that this document is that. It's really the opportunity to get to that point of listening to the listening, to get deeper with what is really going on internally with your ideal client. So yeah, I love playing around with some of the stuff that you put together, Amy. It's so exciting. So that's been the new fun thing. Now there's these GPTs that are out there. So what can you talk about now with these GPT? Like, this is what I love about technology. Like, I think I just want to pause for a moment. Like, what's really fun about technology is it is always changing, which is fantastic. And it can also be overwhelming, as you said earlier, Amy. My invitation for the listener is really just start where you are. Like, I know I said I wanted to geek out today and I really want to go there, but really, if you're at the point of just starting an account and logging in for the first time and maybe asking it to even make your grocery list for you or something like that, like start there and then start to explore some of these other opportunities with ChatGPT. Because I guarantee you, like, honestly, once you start having like asking questions and it, like I said, it becomes like another part of your team. And I remember like saying to myself, man, I really wish ChatGPT was around this many years ago and as a director, because it could have supported me and saved me so much time. So that's why I just wanted to like insert there for the listeners, so they're not like, oh my goodness, all this technology. The other invitation is just embrace it, right? That's the thing with technology. It's the more you can just be embrace it and being open to it, which is where Amy was at when she first started. Like, it's really going to support you with having fun with it and just seeing, hey, what's possible with all of this. So yeah, now the GPT, like my husband came up to me the other day and was like, oh my goodness, now there's these GPTs and we can create this. So yeah, what are you doing with the GPTs with the ideal client handbook, with your clients, and with the authentic messaging? Yeah,
it's so fun. So again, if you're not familiar with GPTs, it's like you're able to create your own custom GPT, like your own, it's almost like your own AI model with your rules in it, if that makes sense. I mean, the best way to understand it is, like you said, just play with it, right? So we have built a number of GPTs. One of my, I'll mention two of them that I love, that I use frequently. And one of them is called Pocket Client. So essentially what you do is you click on the link to open this GPT that we built. And then for those who have your ideal client handbook, you upload your ideal client handbook into it. So basically just like, okay, I am now your ideal client. And you feel like you're talking to your ideal client. Like it's like, it feels like a person, right? And I definitely want to say that I look at AI as not here to replace us. It's a tool for us to integrate with, right? We are beings of intelligence. AI is also intelligence. So we can really raise our intelligence together. So using this, it's like, okay, I want you to assume like the beingness of my ideal client. So say that I have planned an upcoming in-person retreat. So I can say, hey, Pocket Client, like, I've come up with this retreat. Here's what I've come up with. What do you think? What have you loved about retreats? What have you not loved? And it'll say, oh, and it totally like we designed it to be somewhat like self-absorbed. So it's like, well, what I've liked is this, and what I don't like is that. And it's so on point. It's not like rude or anything. It's just, I like that it's not just super agreeable. It just says, well, I think this is important and I would want more of this and less of this. And I'll say, okay, what do you think about that? And even the very first time I used it, I had a big aha that in 12 years, I have never realized. And it just opened my eyes to how I can tweak my own messaging and positioning for a specific offer that I would have never thought about. So just having that Pocket Client is really helpful. And then the other one is we designed it because even when we ask the two simple questions, they aren't so simple if you're not tuned into them, right? Like, what is my purpose? Like, that's like, what is the meaning of life? I don't know what to type in. I'm scared to type it in, right? So we thought, how can we make this easier? So we created a GPT that essentially is called your purpose and transformation analysis GPT. So all you do, so Alex, what you would do is you would just put in your name and then something about you. You could put in your name, put Unleash an Unstoppable Podcast, and it'll go, right? And it'll like say, here's just like a summary of who Alex is. And then here's her purpose, here's her desired transformation for her audience, and here's her specific value proposition, like unique value proposition. So even that can be done for you through a GPT. So we're really excited to share that with the world and help them to even gain clarity on that. Now, if you have zero internet presence, then it's a problem, but most of us at least have some presence. And if you don't, and you're an entrepreneur, you definitely need to have an online presence. So just wanted to put my 2 cents in there.
My mind is being blown. And I have seen, I don't know how many workshops of Amy. And it's like, and partially why I continue to go to them is because she might have done one, I don't know, 4 months ago. And because technology is always changing, I'm always curious, like, okay, what else is new? What else is like a revelation or because it always progresses, right? It's always changing. So yeah, even today, it's like, wow, like just it's so neat to be able to just have some of these information. And, it was funny, actually, it was reading the Ideal Client Handbook for Pika Designs. And it was talking about one of this big fears is people not showing up as themselves or because here's the reality, right? When you're online, right? A lot of times it's messaging, it's wording, it's not necessarily a conversation. And as you know, as an entrepreneur being out there, it's closing the gap, I guess, between someone discovering you online and then booking a call and having a conversation with you. And this seemed to be the theme that was actually coming up in our Ideal Client Handbook. So I know because messaging is your thing, right? That you're so passionate about that. What would you say to speak into that? Because I'm just really curious from your perspective, someone who is so knowledgeable about this, to maybe address that fear in regards to really showing up authentically online, using the technology to support with that. And I guess it's just addressing that fear that those that, could be experiencing around this.
Yeah, I had the same fear early on. And here's the thing, like just on a deeper, like human being soul level, is that no one can replace you. No one can replace me. I am here and present. So it's like, I don't know, think of Dr. Seuss, like you are the only you there is. Like that's probably not what it's like. You are the only you there is. So nothing can replace you. Nothing, not one thing, not one person, not one technology, not artificial intelligence. If we really sit and think, can it really replace me? No. The answer is no. Can anyone replace what it feels like to receive a hug from you? You know what I mean? Like just on a deep, like heart level. So my wish for everyone is like, let's just really tune in and see like what is the real underlying fear? I think a deeper fear is, can it take something from me? Right? Can it take a job from me? Can it take my message from me? Yeah, no one can take your voice from you. That is your voice. So the way I look at it is, first of all, continue connecting with human beings. I continue to lead live workshops and speak on live stages and meet people in person. Like I'm the person that will hug my Uber driver because we bonded. You know what I mean? Like I can't help myself. So just let's not lose sight of that. That's so important. And leverage AI to amplify your authentic message. So you can totally train AI on your authentic voice and your writing style. And instead of thinking it's replacing me, it's like, no, now I can create so much more content using my voice, just like if I did hire a team of copywriters or a visibility person, like you can do so much more in so much less time. It's just about training the tool on your authentic writing style. And you can still write your own emails and social media posts. Like there are times when I'm like, I just want to do it myself. Okay, then do it. So I just think the fear is just not taking a moment to sit and think and ask yourself the question. Just take a few deep breaths, like, what am I really afraid of? And I think that intimacy sometimes in life is lost. If we're ever panicked about something. I was at a mastermind event in Austin recently, and this woman said, her name's Mary D. And she was sharing some story. And she said this one sentence. I'm like, I have to write that down because I'm all about words, right? She said, it deserved a sit. Like it's something that she experienced. Like, I was like, oh, I love that. So sometimes we just like something like your fear deserves a sit. Just sit and think and ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? And I'm willing to bet that the fear is just not real.
Well, I love that too. We look at, right, like the hacking your success, your productivity, all of those kinds of things. It's like really unpacking what is the true fear there, right? Like, especially with technology, I hear that all the time. I'm afraid of technology overwhelming. Like it's a bit of a story that gets made up, right? And so I love that invitation just to pause and really get intimate with, okay, what is the true fear that's under here, right? And it really just starts with, I believe with technology starting small, right? It really can, especially if you see what's out there and what's, I always say you got to be with it and just like go with it, right? Or yeah, I guess stay away from it. And I'm not saying I'm inviting you to stay away from. My invitation is really to lead with curiosity and see and experiment with this and really see what's possible here, because it really can. Like, what I love about this and what I loved, Amy, when I first like even heard you speak into how AI can really support you with your business, is that it really helps once you train it, just like anything that's new, you do get to spend a little bit of time at the beginning, is that, there's the ROI of it, like after the fact, right? Where you can save so much time with your messaging, with your email, so that you can spend more time actually being in connection, being in relationship, being in conversation, serving and speaking and coaching and making that impact. And so that's why I think is so beautiful about this is that the invitation would be to embrace it, right? And I love, and we talked about just like it's just amplifying, but nothing can replace who you are as like the unique individual that you are. So I think that's such a beautiful reminder for the listener to be reminded of that, because it's so easy with technology to have that, right? So
Yes.
what's in the works now for you? Like I'm just like, I'm sure like with technology, you never know what's coming, but where have you been spending some of your time, and some ahas that you've noticed recently with the AI and where you're going next with all of this?
Well, I'm so excited about what my team and I are working on now, which is once I started introducing our new AI product, the Ideal Client Handbook, to my clients and then some of my colleagues who are very established entrepreneurs and friends. We were getting really great feedback, and then also things that we can improve. So in the beta, we were tweaking and fine tuning and all of that. So that felt really good to improve it. And then what happened was some of my colleagues who run like larger group masterminds or group coaching programs filled with entrepreneurs and business owners were saying to me, well, gosh, I'm happy to, have you come and speak to my group or share about this. But what I really, really want to know is, can I buy it in bulk for my clients as part of their onboarding? And I was like, oh, well, that's cool. Let me figure that out on the tech side. I didn't.
Yeah.
So I love what you said. Just like start small. I'm like, I didn't know how we would set up the tech side of like a community account and then an agency account, but I was committed to figuring it out. And so that's what we did. And so we did that. And then I learned about how what we were actually doing was licensing. And I'm like, oh, I thought licensing was just in the music world. So now we're able to bring our AI tools and resources and GPTs into others' businesses to help their clients. So of course, the business owner themselves love using our products, but then they're like really wanting to help their clients to improve their onboarding process, to give them a quick win, to improve their retention and accelerate their success so they don't get stuck on the piece around ideal client and messaging. So it's been really exciting to, once again, we originally created this for our clients and for ourselves, and then it opened doors to these other opportunities. And now we're working on some bigger licensing partnerships with businesses that have 300, 400, 500 clients in them. So it's very exciting. And of course, we're able to bring down the rate per unit based on these larger volume groups. So it's just been fun. And then I get to go and speak to these groups, which is my happy place. So we're now in the world of licensing our AI tools into other businesses and really trusting these opportunities that keep presenting themselves because of it. And also there are other people who have built out incredible AI automations, like a done for you AI funnel, or a done for you like automated, I don't know, Facebook ad campaign or whatever copy they've created, or ebooks. And so what they're interested in with our product is integrating it into theirs so that the roots of what they're building now have like the depth of information and insights on who the ideal client is, so that it triggers everything else in their automation to be better. So that's been really fun too. So we have a very partnerable offer, which excites me. So that's what we're working on now. And So we're just in the world of partnerships and collaborations and bringing our AI tools into others' businesses. And then, I get to be in my happy place of speaking and pouring into an audience and training them on ideal client and messaging and building that deep human connection and leveraging AI. So it's just kind of brought all my worlds together in a way.
Well, that's what I'm hearing you say, like,
Um,
as you're speaking, right? Because I know that you're really passionate also about like teaching on, VIP days. And I mean, authentic messaging is like really
yes.
what you're all about, as a business coach. And so it's so neat to like see how it's all come together. Cause I think at moments, if I've had this as well, like through some of my transition over the last little while, I've seen like, hey, how does this all line up? Right. And so I love how you talked about the trust and the surrender, right? Well, I know you didn't say surrender, but I always think trust
So
is
that's,
always followed by surrender, right?
yeah.
And that's what's powerful in leadership, right? To be able to be in this moment and also trusting that you are in the right place, and that this is going to come, and that it sounds like right now it's a point of like coming full circle of bringing everything together for you. And so it is so cool to, I'm like I said, I've been kind of on the sidelines watching this past year, and it's so neat to see and have you here today. Because I remember hearing you speak when you first started. I was like, Amy, I'm like, you were on the list of having us here on the podcast. And I wanted to have you right there. And then I was, as I said, about to deliver a baby or in postpartum. So right then was the right time.
Totally.
Now I'm really, I guess one of my sort of like last question for you, Amy, is now you've been in a lot of probably rooms that you have maybe never even been in before, like now venturing into AI and technology. I'm really curious if you have any, I don't know, like a haha moment or something that really landed for you or resonating with you being in those rooms. Cause I, as I said, I used to be that woman in the room, and I had the education background. And so my job was to be able to, as you sort of said before, like you're working with the coaches and taking the technology and marrying it together. I was taking the education with the technology and marrying it together. So I'm curious for you if there was any sort of aha moment, or I don't know, a kind of a neat realization that you had walking into those rooms.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my heart and mind is that no matter where, like I'll say myself or you, like no matter where you are in your journey, you always have value to bring to the table.
Mm.
And the reason why I say that is I don't know about you or anyone who's tuning in right now, but I can't tell you the number of times I have made myself small and
Mm.
put people on a pedestal thinking, well, they're at this level or they have this type of experience and they have these strengths or these skill sets, and thinking that I am less than because they are where they are. And then I learned over time that they really don't care where you are. Just
Mm.
want to know, what do you have to contribute? What do you know? What have you been experiencing in your life? And like we all have our life journey that has so much value and wisdom. So it's a continuous lesson for me to stop diminishing myself, to play
Mm.
big. And if you're invited to the table, there was a reason you were invited to the table, and they care about what you have to say. So it's been a very it's been a personal development journey for sure, like life is, so that's what I would say.
That is really powerful, Amy, because yes, that happened. I mean, I experienced that over and over and over again. And I know with even a lot of our listeners and just leaders in general, like how many times, right, do we walk into a boardroom or do we walk into a room and do diminish, our own knowledge, and we get into that comparinitis, like what's called the comparinitis, right? And the imposter syndrome, like that's definitely something that happens. And so I appreciate you really sharing that and even talking about how this has been a personal development journey. And I imagine that's not something you probably anticipated when you said yes to this whole.
Yeah, but it's vulnerable to say that, but it's like it's real, and everyone
Yeah.
has it. Like I think one of
Yeah.
my biggest ahas was when I was in this like super intense endurance training experience with Jesse Itzler leading us. And Jesse Itzler, for anyone who doesn't know him, he's like run 100K races, and he just does all this crazy. He's like a serial entrepreneur. His wife is Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx. They're both self-made billionaires. I remember he was working towards his first conference that he was hosting, right? He had spoken on many stages, spoken at many conferences, but this was going to be his first conference of his own. And at that point in time, I had hosted a conference before, and so I knew what went into it. I'd been involved in others as well. And he was nervous. Like he's like, yeah, I want to make sure that the people that come to this event, they feel like they got the value out of it. I'm like, you're Jesse Itzler. Like, how are you? Like, you're a self-made billionaire. Like, unstoppable. Like, how are you like, I'm not nervous. Why are you nervous? Right. And so it just made me realize, like, it doesn't matter what level you're at in business or in life or whatever. It's not even about levels. It's just about like being human and recognizing that. So it's just good to be real about it. And the more we can just share those experiences and those vulnerabilities, the more we realize we are not alone. Everyone has their vulnerabilities. And so it's just about like knowing that you have value to bring no matter what room you're in, and to not diminish yourself. I think it's amazing when you just own your power, stand in your power, and speak your truth and say what you really want to say. That's like the heart speech model.
Yeah.
And now I just love connecting with these people because they are curious about what I have to say. And I'm happy to be in contribution. So I could go on, but I want to be mindful of the time.
Oh, I think that's a beautiful, very powerful place to wrap us up here, Amy, about just, like owning your voice, owning your knowledge, and just really, you do have something to say and something to share and something to give. So beautiful way to wrap up. So if the audience wants to connect with you, learn more, dive into some of these tools that you have been building and putting together over the last few years, where can they connect with you and learn more and grab some of these tools?
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely share with you some links. I may have my our fairly new website, idealclient.ai. So you can check that out to learn more. We really see this as the next go-to resource for all things related to your ideal client, how to really deeply understand and motivate and attract your ideal client. And then, of course, the Ideal Client Handbook itself. And then I've got, my Instagram handle. It's just everything is under my name, just at Amy Yamada. So you can just use my name. And although if you Google my name, you'll see that there's another famous Amy Yamada who's a trashy romance novelist. Not me. I'm sure she's very cool, Japanese woman. Yes, so that's a fun side note. But yeah, I'll make sure to provide links so that for those who want to connect with me, you can DM me or check out our sites and our links.
We'll have all the links for you in the show notes as well. So thank you so much, Amy. It's been such an honor to have you here and just, really just dive in. And as you see, listener, like Amy is so genuine. And this is why I'm so honored to have you here, because just being another amazing example, role model as a leader, a female leader who is putting herself out there, being in all these rooms that she never could have imagined that she would be in right a year ago or even 2 years ago, and just staying true to who you are, right? Your vision and what's important to you, and not losing yourself, your voice, your authenticity in what you do. So thank you so much, Amy, for being here. Thank you, listener, for tuning in another episode of Unleash Unstoppable podcast, and see you next week. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexandra Carter and Carol Register.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review, and subscribe.
That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.